Jet Li got the shaft again! Seriously, what happened to Jet Li in this movie? What? Like, don't tell me that Sylvester Stallone can still do this shit at like 60 years old or something, and Jet Li was like, oh, no, I'm too old for this shit, and wasn't like in 3/4 of the movie. So I felt that The Expendables 2 was better than the original, which I felt the original was very dry and was limited in terms of the interaction between the characters. This one improved on that while also becoming even more meta, referencing a lot more stuff. So basically they made an hour-and-a-half movie about the joke of we're too old for this shit, but we're still doing it. And so many references, like references to every single person's career that is in this movie, except for Jet Li, because he didn't have time for that, obviously, because he wasn't in the movie enough. But the whole movie is like reference, 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 you'll get terminated, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. And like, it suffers from the same thing that 300 had, like, how many times can I see people get stabbed? This one is like, how many times can I see people get shot? The problem when you have a movie that is so meta and is so dependent on this one joke of these people being former action stars that are still doing action movies, is that for me it got really thin really fast. Because if you keep telling me that, you know, you're action stars doing an action movie when you're really old, but you're not actually being action stars, I have a problem with that. There is a scene in this that perfectly encapsulates what I'm trying to say. When Jean-Claude Van Damme and Stallone are going at it, and they CGI'd Jean-Claude Van Damme's leg kick. I don't know if they CGI'd it or they used wires, but that shit did not look natural. Because he can't do that leg kick anymore. He's old. And Schwarzenegger and Willis and Chuck Norris don't do anything in the movie except... You know who does kick major ass in Expendables? Jason Statham. Jason Statham can still kick ass, and he does it so superbly. And I think Jet Li would do it even better, but he's not in the movie that much. So yeah, I can't say that I didn't laugh or I got every single reference, okay? But at the same time, you cannot make an entire movie about references and not even make them particularly funny. I mean, they're like, when somebody says, you know, I'm going to terminate your ass, they have no reason to say that to Arnold Schwarzenegger other than the fact that he is Arnold Schwarzenegger. It makes no sense in the script. It's like, honestly, it borrows from the Scary Movie or the new disaster movie or the superhero movie series of parodies where you have stuff thrown in the script just because it's a reference to something, but it serves no other purpose, you know, story-wise or dialogue-wise. And I know this is probably a low blow that I'm comparing The Expendables, which are okay action movies, to that horrible series of parodies, you know, disaster movie, superhero movie, whatever. But it really does feel like after a while it's just, can we focus on what is going on right now instead of what was going on in the 80s when you guys were action stars? Look, I grew up with these guys. I love them. I love the fact that, you know, Jean-Claude Van Damme is getting back in the spotlight, even though he is a bit of a flake. I did love him in JCVD, by the way. Like, Jean-Claude Van Damme rocked in JCVD. But overall, I enjoyed it. Again, I grew up with these guys. But the joke wore really thin after a while. You know, I don't want to see the same old stale joke over and over again, turned on its head and dissected in every way. Like, yes, we're old and we're still doing this shit. Well, good for you. Why don't you do it well? Because really, the action scenes in this are not that creative. There's just a lot of shooting people. And honestly, I'd like to think that we've moved on past the point where we have movies where you blow up an entire country and then at the end you're like, well, good thing we got that plutonium back. Especially since you're in a country that is kind of like in my own neck of the woods, which is Eastern Europe. And, you know, we're not that backwards over here in Eastern Europe, given that I am doing this video now. So, you know, despite what Deadpoolzilla might think, we actually do have technology in this country.